So I have been reading this book, Life 3.0, Being Human in the Age of Artificial Intelligence by Max Tegmark. So the book has started a very interesting conversation, which has been recommended by Stephen Hawking at the flap end of the book. That it's an interesting conversation which all of us should join, or rather, this book helps us to join this interesting conversation. After reading this book, I have some what I should say observations, some some concerns, not concerns, some observations. I would have wanted him to start his uh, his interlude, the way he started as Life 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and the way he has interlaced various topics or other various ideas, that how mind and matter, man and machine, how they somehow are interfacing with each other, and what could be the potential direction in which this symbiosis may have a fruitful or self-destructive self-destructive potentialities for mankind or life on the whole. The way he interweaves his discussion that life from 1.0 to 2.0, that how our planet evolved over billions of years, at some point maybe that from early microscopic bacteria to viruses, or from evolutionary process, how life on evolved, planet Earth evolved. So how human beings are the highest stage on which on the planet Earth, that the evolution of inorganic to organic matter, the highest epistome or highest level, man is at the highest level. So the evolution of inanimate to animate matter, which somehow I would have wanted him to discuss in the proper physics sense, how biophysicists like Manfred Elio Prigogine, how the self replicating macromolecules or missiles, how the ideas of non-equilibrium thermodynamics could explain how the abiogenesis, which might have some interest, some loopholes where we cannot exactly, the egg and chicken problem. So what came first? There are certain, but the common hypothesis of abiogenesis has taken place 4.5 billion years or so. So this is the way he has not discussed this part, but he has somehow skipped, and but how he just tries to see how the abiogenesis and biogenesis part, how evolution of life has reached a stage where mankind or man, evolution of man is the highest stage of consciousness. Now the from the last 200-300 years, the with the advent of industrial revolution, even the capacity of humans to somehow manipulate or implement, or even what I should say, uh, matter in a certain way, or the control of man or matter, man or machine, from the advent of 200-300 years, and in the last century with the development of subject of cybernetics from last 60-70 years before the second world war, So the the interface of man and machine, which is a very old, which is a subject of of how the automation which humans have created, but can the things which man has created, can it, it's an old debate, or the thing of something called Frankenstein monster, if you take it in a negative sense. If that what you create, has it the potentiality, or has it the capacity to outgrow in a way such that it will create the master which has fed it, in a loose sense. So, but these ideas have been discussed by the founders of Alan Turing, and so how the author goes, how this Max Tegmark goes, he surfaces through the various things. So he, in the first few chapters, but his first few 1 2 chapters, he somehow has a utopia. He feels that mankind, or we have reached a stage, or the technological uh, upgradations of computers, supercomputers, artificial intelligence, neural network, we have reached a stage that he tries to imagine a being called Omega, in a way that somehow the idea of world government, which a lot of people are saying, that mankind has reached a stage where the idea of nation state has to be transcended. Somehow he, in a very novel way, rather use of characters, he is trying to say the potentiality of machine in somehow trying to trying to install a world government by virtue of controlling the information flow, whether it's newspapers, whether it's media houses, whether it's corporate journalists, whether it's independent lawyers, how the capacity of artificial intelligence, how the capacity of information technology, or the control of man information by virtue of this artificial intelligence, has potential of a power of creating that utopia of world government. And and somehow he, in a way, tries to say that world government, in first few chapters, is that, can we create a program, or is there a capacity for artificial intelligence, then which he in later chapters replaces by human artificial intelligence. So can we reach a stage that we can create a universal algorithm for all planets, and somehow things are, or people, or governments, or organizations are cooperating for their own self benefit, because the algorithm, or the program, or the underlying software has been generated in such a way such that it is so supra intelligent, such that its component parts will realize that if it will go against that underlying superstructure which has been created, it will have attendant effects which will be not useful, or which will be harmful for them. So it's in their larger interest to cooperate in this large gigantic machine which Earth, on planet Earth, so like this Google, we will be able to reach. So these are his wishes of how technological utopia, in the form of artificial intelligence, whatever you might call it, may somehow in the future somehow dominate things at a universal scale, transcending nations, boundaries, regions, cultures, age groups. So this is, he is trying to elude, in a sense. So with this background, so he somehow tries to elude what is the main debate. Main debate, how the control of information is somehow related with the idea of a subject called artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence as such, it's not a subject of hard science, you can say it. So it's that there are some basic questions. So if you, in 60s also there was famous guy called Isa Asimov, science fiction writer. So there have been various what H.G. Wells has written. So how that invisible man, how future, how in future technology can become sometimes more dominant, and the people who create technology, it somehow has the capacity of what I should say, even replacing the creators which it has created. Now the question is that we as humans, we are in the process of creating this artificial intelligence. So so something which we are going to create, there are certain underlying moral questions, there are certain underlying existential questions, there are certain underlying questions we don't know. We want to impend the answers or those questions into an uncertain future, but we have to decide now. So if you are going to create a program, for example, so the or if you are going to create a machine, the machine has capacity to increase its efficiency day in and day out. And there are technological utopists who will say that we can the efficiency can be increased. So the question is the capacity of what as humans, what we call, what do you mean by to learn, what do you mean by to know, what do you mean by how the capacity, how much can you learn, or how much can you learn know. Is there some fundamental underlying limit we can place it, or the machines or the computational capacities of the things which we are going to create from the advanced versions of 2.0, 3.0, so can they exceed our capacity to know at some time in future, or there are some fundamental limits that even if they might be increased, but they cannot fundamentally what I should say trespass, or they cannot fundamentally bypass the original creator, because ultimately there are some questions like purpose, goal, or there are some subjectivities which he has discussed. Those subjectivities may include emotions, may include purpose, may include meaning. So these are very complex questions. So the idea of purpose, goal, meaning, efficiency, can they be translated in machines which we are creating by virtue of this artificial intelligence at some point in future? Can machines also incorporate these values, these purposes, these goals on their own beyond a certain point? Means, can they somehow decouple, irrespective of the thing, the people who have started it, by virtue of this? So the debate, he has gone through the book through a lot of issues, how much we have been successful. There are personal reminiscences, but one thing is that somehow he says that at some point in time, the question he is addressing is at can humans at some point in time be we will live just like this in the process of speciation. The species which is fit or has more survival value, it will replace in a Darwinian brute way to the species which evolves. The another is that you are giving place to a person who is better or superior than you. Can mankind in a way try to give machines or these homo sapien futurists, which he says in terms of these machines, intelligent machines, who can the mimic the human potentialities of brain, consciousness, thinking, can be they be legal heirs of mankind in some future or not? So these questions he has discussed. In the first few chapters, he has also tried to show that there have been like physicists like Freeman Dyson and other things. There have been utopists in MIT and other places who are even trying to maybe just take it as a problem of an engineering feat of how in next 100 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, or 200 years, how mankind may leave this planet and go to some other galaxy or populate some other parts of the universe, not as a man, maybe as a humanly generated this artificial intelligence. Those people will come, and so who are our legal heirs? So it's a very interesting debate at the end, where he quotes that of Weinberg and Dyson, where he says that the more universes uh, uh, the more you, whichever way you think of the direction you see the universe, it's pointless. But Dyson would want us think has some other perspective. So if we as humans, whose legal heirs are these humanly created intelligent machines, which have capacity for calculation, computation, and other functions far greater than humans, so we can somehow leave this planet. So maybe Weinberg is right. If we die like a normal star in this solar system, maybe so machines have not been developed. We have not created artificial intelligent machines to the point to the discussion we are speaking of. So anyway, the book has a very lot of interesting discussions. Uh, Meeting people, meeting entrepreneurs, meeting young scientists. Maybe. But somehow I would like to say that he has not. So what it means to be living. So when you say that something is not living or something is living, is inanimate and animate. So the mechanistic understanding of life, which started from 16th, 17th, 18th century. So the life as a complex human life is a complex human machine. So the mechanistic model of life, so which has been somehow critiqued by people like a lot of people, that whether mind and matter, how even the questions of consciousness, which people say that the old idea of Cartesian model of thinking that every whole is made up of parts and things work in a causal way, even in terms of consciousness. Somehow he has not discussed the issues of fundamentally what is consciousness all about, or is matter and mind. Is there something called co-evolution of matter and environment towards some higher purpose, or without purpose? So these ideas he somehow tries to see in terms of machines, the way humans try to see in terms of subjectivities like purpose, like goal, like subjective feelings of consciousness, curiosity. So resource driven control, that how we can control resources, how we can have a sense of, so these things, can we just simulate all these things in machines? So he sees this fundamental debate of matter and life through the machines. But maybe it's a very fundamental debate of what you call life and what you call not life. And what you call life may be some part of higher form of non-life, or non-life is a part of life. So, but he wants to say the level of organization of matter, which is life, and humans are the highest stage of that organized something. We can somehow advance that stage in some inanimate matter, and we can exceed the potentialities or capacities. This is what artificial intelligence people want us to believe, or there are groups within the LGB community as the book grows. But there is also a section who don't want to believe that way, who say that the idea of consciousness, these things you can never attain in a machine. So there is a fundamental no or fundamental level. You cannot really surpass that thing. So in which he has included a lot of debates between scientists, computer scientists, cybernetists, mathematicians, physicists. Maybe a lot of people he has gone back and forth, and there are personal reminiscences, meeting a lot of people. So anyhow, this life 3.3, which it's okay book. So on one another thing point where he says that we as humans, somewhere he says that life is, I want to believe that life as such is unique, and then he calculates the various, if the universe is expanding at this rate, what is the probability of the planet Earth having life? Can there be planet like Earth's, similar planets like Earth which will have life? So he says that he wants us to, he has a personal, somewhere he writes that he doesn't want to, that our existence of planet or life Earth is unique. If it's unique, that makes us special. If that makes us special, the questions of meaning, what do we mean by giving meaning? Can we find meaning of life in understanding the universe, or meaning can be found by understanding? We give meaning to the universe. Universe doesn't give to the meaning to us. So this is an interesting conclusion he has arrived at some point in his book. So I'll say it was an interesting read this book, modulo that I would have wanted that his earlier chapters he should have given a proper description how life 1.0 had evolved. And there are various maybe open-ended questions which he has just seen how we can interface future. It's not only computer scientists, it's not only there should be legal experts, computer scientists, environmentalists. So the idea of, in the end chapters, he is somehow trying to be a humanist, global humanist, in which even when he quotes that our technology, science grows to a level, but the wisdom is not growing incommensurate with the advancements in science. So we are assimilating information or advances in technologies, but our wisdom is not growing accordingly. He would want to have some balance in it. And there are some open questions I would want to do at the end of this chapter. And he's discussed with similar like people how we can arrive at it. So anyway, it's an interesting read, good read, the Life 3.0, Max Tegmark. So let's talk.